It just it
I've
is
started a timer, Brian. 30 minutes only
okay.
for the
Mad
people.
dash. Well, and it's a good day for it because it's, LC deadline day, so it's like a mad dash to the finish.
Got to get back to work.
And there's no real reason why the deadline has to be Friday of January, 16th. It's very arbitrary.
I think there's probably maybe the chief clerk's office needs maybe a week to process all the bills because they happen all at
Sure.
once, right? But this isn't pre-session filing for long. This isn't 1,500
Yeah.
bills.
And why
So
couldn't
I
we
think
send
it's
submit them over the
early.
weekend? They're not going to do anything at 4:58 today.
No, that's true also. Monday
Yeah.
at 5. Come on.
Well, I would just say
I
over the weekend, like
agree.
Monday morning at 8 a.m., our inbox is closed, right? Or something like that. I don't know. It
Yeah.
wouldn't be that
Have
hard.
you seen some of the stuff people are sending around now? They're like, well, we'd like to modify a 100-year-old law that everybody's argued about forever. We're just going to do that real quick in the short session. Sure. Well, fine. Might as well,
Sounds like a
right? What else are we
plan,
going
dude.
to do?
Oh,
You
it's
got to lay foundation for this stuff. I'm fine with a big topic if it's we're continuing the conversation from last long, because sometimes you can't let stuff sit one long to another long. There's just too much time. And so if you need to bring it back in short, and that's it, but you have to show me the bill number from 2025 before I even think about touching that garbage. Let me tell you. Um, but people have some big stuff they want to bring. Golden, I think this one's going to be interesting. Golden's got his lobby reform bill. These poor lobbyists, they can't do conflict checks on their own. So that if they just register with the state system, what their
yeah.
clients support and oppose, then they'll be able to check those conflicts. So, and as you know, I mean, Jeff Golden is very concerned about what the lobbyists like and don't like. And he wants to make sure they have all the tools they need. That's going to be fascinating.
Did you see his other bill? He's doubling down on the wildfire stuff. So now he's going to mandate that insurance agencies have to give you breaks if you put in hardening requirements. So he's so trying to double down on the wildfire stuff. It's pretty funny. His bills are, if anything, they're entertaining. So it's kind of interesting.
Okay. I think also that for that one and specifically, if you're going to go out there and just mandate people's business practices, they're not going to do business here. That's the biggest problem is if major parts of their business are just going to be subject to whatever the state says you have to do, like we're going to not have more insurance. But yeah. All
Yeah.
right. So we got a quick agenda, a short agenda. Can I rant for, I'll take 2 minutes to rant about ledge days.
Okay.
I figured out what the problem is with ledge days. One, they shouldn't exist. But barring that, two, we crammed 5 days worth of work into 3 days of committees. I was like, what is wrong with it? And then what they do, because Ways and Means, you try to prep for Ways and Means, forget it. Because they schedule out the subs. Not all the subs meet on Monday. Some of them are Tuesday, some of them are Wednesday. So they can't even post all the materials for full on Thursday morning until they get done with all of the subs on Tuesday and Wednesday. I'm thrown off because they put ledge days in the middle of the week. It's not the best version of ledge days is Monday, Tuesday, you have time to prep. Wednesday,
Yeah.
Thursday, Friday ledge days. Monday ledge days is a nightmare. But in the middle, everybody's just confused. So you're trying to cram 3 days worth of work. You scheduled it so that your subs meet both of the days, so you can't prep for full until the subs are done to see the
Yeah.
conversation, everything that happened. So it's like, what's the point of prepping? And then that was the most enormous agenda I have ever seen for alleged days, ways, and means. So the whole thing is messed up. We need to streamline or reduce what we're doing in ledge days if it's going to be 3 days, or it just needs to be a whole week. It just take
Yeah.
the regular schedule and have it show up in the ledge days week. It seems easy.
Or just call it prep week or something. I'm with you. I think that the ways and means thing was a one, the room was pretty cool. I like the new room. I'll say that was kind of cool.
Very cool.
No more small table, so that part's, kind of a bummer because it's always fun to look at the people that have to sit at the small table, the kids table, like
Yes,
I like
that
to call it.
no more ways and means kids table. We are now full on Galactic Senate Star Trek hearing rooms have been activated.
Yeah, that part's kind of cool. I like the seal in the background and all that sort of stuff was kind of fun. So the microphone's still got a little bit of an issue there. I think they got to work on some of the microphone stuff. Kind of pauses if you move your head away a little bit, like it doesn't catch it right away. And then of course the overflow room is a 2 minute delay in the overflow room. Like we got to get that fixed. Like you can't have there's a 3 second delay, but a 2 minute delay. That's just that's unacceptable. So they need to
And
fix
it's
that.
first run. It's the first run of these. It's good to have a chance
I
to
understand.
practice with ledge days. I think there's one of the things that was noticed there isn't water. The little water containers that they have in the upstairs committee rooms are not in the basement yet. So hopefully we get
Yeah.
maybe they'll be cool and they'll be like metal. Maybe they'll spit out coffee too. I mean, I don't know. I mean, the fancy committee rooms deserve fancy machines, right?
What's
So we'll
this?
see what they do there.
What's the Star Trek thing where they go in and it just makes whatever you want? You go, Picard would always say herbal tea hot, and then it would just make it.
Oh, that's right. I do not remember what it is called,
What do they
and I can't
call
even
it?
remember the thing that the beam me up.
Yeah.
If you could get between the capital's big now, so you kind of need the beam me up, and
Yeah,
if we could
yeah.
get that going,
I found it,
so no, I think it's cool. I do like the new space.
and with that committee, I think the only problem there, and the hearings, some of those hearings that they were hearing their bills, like we're basically having bill hearings. And that's not and they're trying to speed up the process of short. I think if you're just going to do that, I think you just do it the week before short and just call it prep week or something, and then we just jam stuff through. But see, I hate the whole go for a week and then everybody goes away for 2 weeks and then we come back and we just we run. I thought the Ways and Means was really great when that we were voting on stuff early so they could recommend to themselves to vote on it in short session. That was pretty hilarious. And Senator McLean had it was some of his best material he's had in a long time. He was on fire. And I love the fact that he started saying straw poll. So I guess we're taking a straw poll. And it just made me laugh. I thought it was funny. Super long meeting, 3 hours almost. Insane. Not
Some of
worth.
the big ones too, you weren't even taking a straw poll because they said, well, here's how much the rebalance is going to cost. We're not going to spend that. We're asking LFO to come up with a plan. It's like we have to vote to ask LFO to come up with a plan.
Yeah.
Don't
Right.
remember that. And usually the Coke chairs can just go to LFO and be like, come up with a plan. And I don't think anybody has to vote on that. So I think that some of those items did not make sense to me.
No.
And I would like to understand better the rationale on some of that stuff. Maybe there is one. I don't think, I mean, I think the main rationale that was explained was this gives us a jump start on short session and really tells you again why the crosstabs layout for session of 3 months every year is way better because 35 days is not enough time. I mean, I don't even know. Bryan, what do you think? Will we use all 35 days? That takes us all the way to I think it's like Monday, March 8th or something like that is the technically true sine die. I can't imagine being in the legislature for these 35 days and March 9th and everybody going on the weekend and be like, do we want to push through or do we want to just come back on Monday? Let's just come back on Monday. So I doubt we go 35 exactly. How many days do you think we will go?
I think we'll get you like that. I changed the view.
Maybe we could go on YouTube with this.
I know,
This is
right?
kind of
So
cool.
funny.
We
Sorry,
need to fix your
I
glare
hit
though,
the
but
wrong
that's
button.
cool. Brian put us in immersive view because we're a audio podcast. We're playing around. I don't think we're ready to go video, but he put us in immersive view. We were in some sort of one of the coolest looking coffee shops I've ever seen,
Yeah.
and it was pretty cool.
You know what we are ready for? We're ready for a producer.
If if you are ready to produce the most popular Oregon politics capital podcast for $0,
Yeah,
please reach out and let us know. We might throw in a sandwich or a coffee or something.
maybe only at Adam's Ribs. So, anyways,
Yeah.
I think we make it. I think we're gonna go to that Friday. What is that, the 6th?
Yeah.
I think we end up
Hmm.
going to Friday. I just think there's too much stuff going on. There's too much to do. I think they'll be able to wrap it into a bow and get it out of there by Friday because people hate going to Sunday. unless there's something huge to have happen, I don't think, and now that the gas tax off the table, I think we're done Friday.
Yeah, I agree. If there's a big good thing we can get done, people would be willing to stretch it to Saturday maybe. But worst case, nobody wants to show up on Sunday, and there won't be a quorum on Monday, guaranteed.
Yeah.
Call the session if you want. Nobody's going to be there.
Well, they have no
Because
reason
you're
to
in
be there either. We
territory
can just walk
now.
out. Yeah, there's no reason to be there.
Right. And you're in the territory, right? You've got I think everybody, there might be, I haven't got the counts, but there might have been a couple unexcused absences last session, but almost everybody's got all 9 to use. So you really, if you don't want to show up on Monday, you do not have to, anybody. And then they'll reset going into the next session, right? So I agree with you. Friday, Saturday is the most likely outcome there. So and so you mentioned the gas tax, and this I am huge props, honestly, to whoever found this 90-year-old opinion, legal opinion. So what we're talking about is there's an AG opinion dated November 13th, 1935. And it was asked, the governor, Charles Martin, asked Attorney General I.H. Van Winkle whether lawmakers could repeal a bill instead of engaging in a ballot fight. So it sounds like they would have passed the bill in that 1935 session, and then people were collecting signatures, and it was over student fees at Oregon colleges, right? So a fee, tax, funny. So they ask, and the opinion basically says that if you're going to have an initiative system and it's in your constitution, if the legislature can just repeal whatever the voters send to the ballot, you don't have an initiative referendum process. You don't have a check and balance on the legislature, right? Because they can call themselves into special session, or they can have a short session or whatever, and they can just undo the thing that went to the ballot. And so the legal rationale is you can, anytime before the signatures are collected, you can amend or repeal. It's frozen once the signatures are verified, it's sent to the ballot. And then after it's voted on, you can go back to amending the same laws with a vote of the legislature, right? And so, and I would have to say, I am not a lawyer. However, that seems correct to me. That seems like the correct rationale. So congratulations to 90 years ago, Attorney General, for getting it right.
He did get it right, and I think he is correct because I don't believe it's, well, besides being fair, because we're in the game of politics, fair doesn't enter into it. I I just think that when there's a process, and the Democrats always talk about process, all ways and means yesterday. We just got done talking about that. Lieber's argument was this is the process that we determined. So
Mm-hmm.
this is the
Yeah.
process we're going to follow. So there's a process. You pass a bill, it was referred. The people that didn't like you passing the bill got signatures to refer to the voters to give it a yes or no. That is in the Constitution. That is a process.
Yep.
To usurp that process is undermining the entire democratic process that you so talk about all
Yes.
the time. That undermining the democratic process, undermine all the time. You talk about that with Trump and all the things in the federal government. So you don't get to talk about the stuff in the federal government, and then when immediately something you don't like in the state of Oregon happens, you don't get to change that Democrat process to fit your own goals. That is bullshit. And that is why finding this AG opinion is so important, because the AG opinion clearly, clearly makes it count that it's when it's done, it's done. It's going to the voters. Let it go.
Yes.
And
Yes. And I
doesn't mean they
think
can't
that,
find other money. They can go find other money and backfill and do whatever they want to try to do there. You have a process for that, but you
yep.
don't just repeal it because you don't want it on the November ballot.
Right. And the Constitution part of it too really sets that up. If this was just statute, you could make an argument that statute can be changed, right? I still don't think that even if it was only statute, it's good policy to change it. But this is a constitutional process. This is something that Oregon has said, and no one's tried to repeal the having initiatives, having referendums, having recalls. Those things are things we have said are core tenets of our democracy, that the voters should be able to put something up if the legislature won't pass it, or even if they would pass it, we want a different version, that we can have a check and balance, right? They're already really stretching the referendum by making sure that they put an emergency clause on anything that doesn't have taxes in it to prevent that from going to the ballot, which I think is also wrong, but unfortunately is allowed. And
Yeah.
then recalls, right? We've said if somebody really steps over the line and isn't willing to step down, which is rare, but is occasionally needed, we just strengthen the recall process by allowing, or not strengthen the recall, but we strengthened allowing the legislature to remove a governor,
Yeah.
right? If you don't go through a recall. So we made clear that these are things, are core tenets of our democracy. So if you are going to, for one session, one budget, one tax issue, undermine those core tenets of democracy, I think that says a lot about who you are as a policymaker and who you are as a politician. And that is short-sighted and partisan, right?
Yeah. I think where does that lead? Do you think that now we have to look at the fact that like maybe the Secretary of State has to weigh in on this point, or what do you think? I kind of feel like Tobias needs to come out and just say that the law is clear and I'm moving forward with this to be on the November ballot. I kind of feel like he needs to come out and say that. I don't know if he will.
I think that I think what needs to happen is what I think should have happened at the beginning. So if you go back and read the article, a couple things are relevant here. First of all, the governor comes out and says we didn't know about the opinion, and I think that's reasonable. It's from
Yeah.
1935. I did not know
Sure.
about the opinion either. There's no way. There was no way to know about it. You could have read the Constitution. I was having this conversation. I said the Constitution. You kind of forget it exists. There's parts about it that are there, but I don't know if
Fair.
I've ever sat down to read the whole thing. I know where Article 1 Section 27 is, guns, and I have to Google where the kicker is, but I know it's in there, right? So but you don't sit down and read it. But I think if you sat down and read it, you would get the vibe about what the initiative and referendum process is supposed to be. So I think the governor's office, the AG's office said DOJ is still forming an opinion. That is not how AG opinions work. The AG opinion is your opinion. Now
Yeah.
you may say it's no longer relevant. You may issue a new opinion. I don't know what they're going to do. The AG opinion is your opinion to the executive branch until it changes. So
Yeah.
it's not, well, we just found this piece of paper. So somebody should walk their PR staff through how that works, because that is an important nuance, I think, for them to understand about this whole thing. I think that if Dirk, Julia, Carlos, whoever's listening, should talk to all the legislators, should do the thing they do when Trump says something insane. They call the Republicans and be like, what do you think about this? They never do that with the Democrats. They don't do a
No.
full call down. They don't do a full email. They don't ask everybody, well, what do you think about this opinion? Do you think an AG's opinion is still legally binding? Would you follow it if it was found to be legally binding? They won't do that. They should. They should ask at least all the key Democrats in charge, AG, Secretary of State, Governor, co-chairs, joint transportation chairs, majority leaders, presiding officers. They should all get that question. And they will all say no comment, by the way, but they should all get the question,
Yeah.
and then they should report. No one is willing to talk about if this AG's opinion is. Here's what an AG opinion is. Interview somebody and to explain it, a former AG. None of that will happen.
I agree. So moving on. Secretary of State. This is the other thing I wanted to hit on. Speaking of Secretary of State, so in general government, and then I think even so he testified in general gov sub, as well as testified over in rules. I believe it was in rules
Yeah.
and campaign finance reform, because we love campaigns. So that was enacted last session or 2 sessions ago, short, right? Where they did campaign finance rules reform. And so then they said, well, in 2027, we're basically changing the entire campaign finance rules in Oregon. And so the Secretary of State came in with a couple of big bombs that he's dropped. One is they're removing 800,000 inactive voters off the rolls, which
Wow.
is crazy that they've been sitting there forever. Dennis Richardson started this, I think, in 2017. Didn't quite get done in 2017. And then and these inactive voters, now, mind you, some of my Republican friends out here to say we're removing 800,000 inactive voters. They run around and see, they scream fraud, 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 right? See, we told you so. Inactive voters don't get ballots,
That's
everybody.
right.
Let me say that again for people that are listening. Inactive voters do not get ballots. However, it doesn't mean that they could easily go in and activate and get a ballot. So
Yes.
they should be removed. It should be a process that is cleaned up every 2 years at least with every election cycle. And I think Tobias is basically he has to take the bullet on this one because it should have been done, just hasn't because of lazy Secretary of State.
Well, and actually, so I think unfortunately, and this is where we need to hold our own party accountable. It was Richardson's office, Secretary of State office, trying to be pro-voter,
Yeah.
saying we're not going to remove inactive voters, that they used to get removed on a regular schedule.
Yeah.
We're no longer doing that. There is a lot of questions about whether or not that may have actually violated federal voter registration law,
Yeah.
which requires removal of certain types of voters and in certain circumstances, all that. But that being said, right, that's a Republican Secretary of State. And that was the decision they made. I wasn't in the room. I didn't have the rationale, but I would say that actually Republicans really hurt ourselves on that front. Now, it was a different time.
Yeah.
So making that decision at that time wasn't necessarily particularly controversial. But the downstream effect of not following the federal law, or at least the federal law as I understand it, is that we have a lot of inactive voters and we shouldn't have that many. It should be a lot less, and it should be regularly reset and regularly called. And I'm glad that the Secretary of State is doing this. And I think that every single person, as you may remember, I got plenty of flack. Representative Wallen got plenty of flack for supporting Tobias Reed. I think this is a great choice. I think it proves what I believed about him, which is he's going to do the job, and he's going to do the job according to what the laws in Oregon and the federal government are. And where he thinks, he's obviously engaged in lawsuits, and I understand that not everybody agrees with those things, but I think he is making choices not based on partisanship here. And I think that's super, super clear. I'm super, super proud of that. I'm super, super glad that I don't regret my endorsement, and I don't at all. Zero. I zero regret it. I think he's doing a great job, and appreciate it. I think campaign finance is a huge challenge. It got jammed through at the last minute because they were holding a ballot measure to the heads of the legislature. I think that's kind of why we're in a mess right now. And the legislature needs to either get real about financing, setting up the system, giving the Secretary of State what he needs, or they need to just go and do what everybody in the building wants to do and repeal it. They won't say it publicly because it looks bad, but they all want it repealed. What they want is update the system to make it easy to search who's giving what when, and then be done. They don't want the limits. Well, Jeff Golden wants the limits. Everybody else doesn't. They don't want the limits. They don't want the rigmarole. They don't want the silliness. It's all of just make it clear, transparent, and fast.
Yep.
That should be the goal.
And I'm glad he said 25 million. And I think that's a low number to do the things.
Oh, easily.
To do the things that you need to do in that bill. I mean, not only is 25 million a low number, the time frame in which to do all that. Now, granted, it took them a long time to come to 25 million when it's the deadline's coming up. I don't know if you do that on purpose to try to make sure you get an extension or something like that. The bill itself is it's not a good bill. It doesn't do what it's really intended to do. All it's going to do is turn us into a dark money state. It's going to create all of these third party packs and things like that where, you're not coordinating, but now all of a sudden I'm going to be running. Reagan's going to have a race that's a candidate, and I'm going to have a race that's a candidate. So Reagan's consulting on that race. Well, what he's going to do is he's going to say, Bryan, you go run the dark money pack for my candidate, and then I'll run the dark money pack for your candidate. But we won't coordinate on any of that stuff. We won't know what's happening, but I need you to make sure you're doing it. And oh, by the way, if there's a YouTube channel where you might find some good video that you could potentially download for free without doing anything of my candidate that you could use in a TV ad if you so find. But it's public domain. Don't worry about it.
This is what already happens at the federal level. That's the thing is They did it at the federal level. And then everybody goes, well, that's a great system. It's not. It's terrible. It's
Yeah.
it's not transparent. It results in millions upon millions of dollars being spent. No idea where it comes from, no idea whose messaging it is. Candidates and caucus leaders lose control of their ability to run their races and run their and
Yep.
get the candidates. And I understand that they are not the only ones that matter in this equation. That voters and donors and candidates are all supposed to have input, but candidates should have control of their campaigns. And right now, we have a simple system that does allow them to do that. If you want me elected, you write me a check. You don't have to write a check to anybody else because there's limits, and the limits will make that all
Yep.
worse. Candidates will have almost no money. They will not be able to defend themselves. They will be reliant on outside groups who all have different priorities than the individual candidate. If you want to be a total, Jeff Golden's a great example of this. He goes out there and he's a total wacko, but he doesn't have control of his campaign because Democrats always have to come in and spend money for him. Well, right now, they can coordinate with him on that if they want to. They will not be able to. So then they'll be like, well, we hope Jeff Golden loves jobs because we're going to say he loves jobs. So groups will go out there and say stuff about candidates, and I won't be able. I'll have to go, actually, I don't necessarily agree with that. And now all kinds of chaos. Voters will not know what to believe. And so it will damage our democracy. They claim this is good government. It is bad government. It makes things worse. Limits and restrictions. Transparency is fine, but limits and restrictions are bad.
I agree. And I think that you're going to find the caucuses, and I hope the caucuses from the Democrat caucus and the Republican, you got to realize this is going to strip your leadership. This will strip your power like you've never seen in
Yep.
campaigns. And right now you have a little bit of power because the lobby has to work with you and other companies. Phil Knight's money is $3 million that goes to bring balance to Salem, that they're going to work with the caucus leadership to make sure that the priorities are where they need to be. And then they spend and they show the money going to the leadership fund. And then that goes out to the Jeff Golden race, right? I mean, that process is there and it's good and it's transparent. What will happen is that $3 million you will never see. The public will never see where it went, where it'll go to 17 different groups. It'll go over to New York and then down to Georgia and up to a nonprofit out, and it'll spit out at some pack for better for Southern Oregon pack that you have no idea who's behind it. You can't find it. And then also the caucus will have zero say in all of that. And you'll have nothing. And then all the lobby groups won't give you any money because you're going to be hampered by the amount of money they can actually give you. So basically, you'll be lucky if you can fund lunch for staff. Good luck. You know, just good luck. And we will
Yep.
lose. And it's just a transparency is the best sterilizer to any fraud and any bad government thing. The more
Sunlight's the
transparent
best
you can make,
disinfectant.
yeah, the more you can make transparency, the better off it is. Just focus on that and people will be fine.
Yep, 100%. All right, last topic, Brian. I never thought I'd be saying this because we just had a gas tax referred to the ballot, and I believe that gas tax. Correct me if I'm wrong, Brian. If you sell gas, you have to collect a tax. So it's like a sales tax, right? Now, Oregonians don't like sales taxes, but that's probably why this ended up on the ballot. Well, here I am looking at a L Pro presentation to the Interim Senate Committee on Finance and Revenue, which you may know about, Brian, because I think your senator is on it. And it's titled Retail Sales Tax. Okay. So I'm just scrolling through here, Brian, and it's mostly informational. What do Washington, California do, and all the sales tax rates for states, and a streamlined sales tax project. Okay.
Mm.
Um, you know what I can't see on here is which tax we're eliminating. I don't see that on here. I didn't see. Maybe I missed that one. Maybe that's page 11 and it just got page 12 and this ends at page 11. They just forgot to upload it. That could have happened. But I don't think so. I think that this is just a sales tax. And I'm kind of surprised that it came up in revenue. What was the conversation in revenue about this? Were they like, yeah, let's do this? Oregonians love sales taxes.
No, there was
Or
no
was it different?
there was no real conversation. I think Senator Broadman is floating around the idea. He doesn't like our heavily reliance on income taxes and the up and downs that we get with these wild forecasts and stuff that we've had over the years. And I don't think, and I think a sales tax, if you look at states that have, like the triple headed tax, right? They tend to be a little bit more stagnant in their ebbs and flows, right? So you don't see wild ups and downs. So I think he's clearly wanting something like that. But the problem is it's very difficult for Democrats to lower income taxes because they would say, why would we go through the headache to do a revenue neutral scenario, right? We're not actually raising any more revenue. Why would we go through the political and the philosophical, discussions and the headache and the potential fallout of even doing it if we're not going to generate more revenue for all of our silly programs?
Well,
So that's my
their
problem.
argument, the problem is they have a disingenuous argument about this. And I'm just going to call it out. They claim the thing they care about is stable revenue. Well, guess what? A sales tax is more stable than income tax because it's generally on consumption doesn't change enough in a downtime in the economy to tank your budget 25%. Income can, right? We were just talking about this. If Phil Knight moves out of the state, you're going to notice on our revenue forecast. You'll see that. That'll be forever etched in history. Phil Knight left Oregon. Okay. Yeah, I'm not saying he's going to, but I'm just saying if he did, that would hurt. Also, you can see somebody was talking about what happens if the Blazers get sold this year. You know what happens? Kicker. That's how much that
Yeah.
hits your revenue, right? So income versus sales tax is better. Okay. But they will never say we'll eliminate income or property tax to make up for the balance. They just want people to pay more. So they go in with their Trojan horse of stable income, and then they go, just kidding, we're just trying to raise your taxes. We just want more money. Because guess what? Who has the three-headed monster, as you mentioned before, is California. And are their budgets always balanced? Yeah, actually, no. They
No.
run massive deficits. They have all kinds of fiscal problems. It seems like maybe your spending is the problem. And the reason we have the kicker too, and one of the great things about the kicker is it curtails the increases when the increases go up. So guess what? You only have to cut 700 million this year
Yeah.
instead of $2 billion or more, right? I don't. So I think it's wrong. I think if you want to do a sales tax and swap it out for an income tax, I'm excited about that. I would be totally on board for that. Anything short of that, I think is just a stinker.
Yeah, that'd be a pro worker policy. That'd be a pro state policy. That'd be a pro business policy if you just swapped it out altogether. You're taxing tourists and stuff like that. They don't pay for anything now. We don't have any toll roads or anything that tax tourists that drive up and down 101. We don't even have we talked about, there's not even a rental car tax that goes after tourists. So tourists, if they don't pay the TLT tax, they basically get off scot-free in the state of Oregon for being a tourist. And so that's definitely a problem when we're a high tourist economy driven state that our local economies that always in our local cities and stuff that just freak out that they can't. That's why I think the TLT looking at how to reposition the percentage of money that goes to local governments and stuff, we got to take a look at that because the reality is these local governments have no other really way of generating revenue from tourists, especially in Newport and Lincoln City and Astoria and these places that got high tourism, economy, Central Oregon and stuff. And I think that's why the sales tax, I would imagine that's kind of why Broadman's kind of looking at it because Bend is
Probably.
where he's from. It's a very high tourist thing. He's talked about other things from taxing Airbnbs and other vacation rentals, things like that. You're looking at, a city growing super fast has got to try to come up with money, revenue to pay for infrastructure upgrades. And it's really happening on a quick level. So I don't mind the discussion. I'm willing to have the discussion. I think it's worthwhile having the discussion, but it has to be, you have to give income tax is so regressive for people if you're trying to work up the food chain, in
Yep.
life. To as soon as I make it to the next tax bracket, I'm going to get whacked with another 5% income tax.
Yep.
It's so regressive. So, if you want to help people save money to buy their first home or all the sort of things, you got to get rid of the income tax. That without that discussion, it's DOA in my mind. So I'm with you.
I agree, and I appreciate bringing that up, Brian. I am not trying to, smack the good chair and Senate Finance and Revenue, Rookie of the Year,
Yeah.
Broadman, Senator Broadman. I think it's totally fine to have the conversation. I just think that there's a lot of people that go, "Oh, wouldn't it be so great if we had a sales tax and how much more
Yeah.
stable our revenue is?" And that's not why they want it. They want more
Yeah.
money. They want more money for services. They want to spend more on human services. They want the government more involved in our lives. They want to create another government program that, spends more than it takes in and creates outcomes. It creates no outcomes, and that's what they are trying to accomplish. And we're not. Listen. Welcome to the new era. I'll just, to quote a great president, an okay president, the era of big government's over, guys, in Oregon. The federal government is cutting us off, and the economy is in rough shape right now. So, era of big government is over. It's so funny because one of the ways that they've tried to curtail in the legislature, if you're an outside organization, you used to be able to submit capital construction requests. They're like, we're not taking them,
Yeah.
maximum of two in the short session, and it better be a legislator sponsored request because they're not even they don't have the money. They don't even look. I think Senator Girard advised 10 million or less. And I heard somebody ask, so, if we're under 10 million, then we get funded. And I was like, no,
Yeah.
no, not even close. You'll be lucky to get one. If you get one, you're in pretty good shape there. So it's just a new era, and bills that go down to Ways and Means, almost all of them will die this session. Almost all of them will die this session, guaranteed, because they got to find 700 million. Because not only are we upside down just on revenue, cost increases in human services are up. So the deficit is getting bigger even if revenue stabilizes or goes up slightly. So, I mean, it's just a different era. We had 10, 12, 15 years of just up, 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 and that we're done now. It's
Yeah.
back down. Hopefully not for too long, but right now it's down.
Yeah. I hear you. All right.
We did it.
Barely.
35 minutes. Yeah, the
35.
timer went off a couple minutes ago. I've always said 35
Uh,
minutes, Brian, not 30. 35 is the
we
sweet
get the
spot.
we get to talking about sales taxes. That gets us fired up. So,
You had three. Here's the thing. This is the mistake I made, Brian. You had three topics, and three topics is 30 minutes, and I added a
uh,
fourth. So it's my fault. I take the blame for this podcast being long. I probably did
I
talk the
did.
most too. We were talking about talk time. It'd be cool if Ledge Media could pull talk time and who talks the most in each of these committees. And then when you're setting up your committees, not only do you look at schedules and you look at issue areas, you can go, oh, we have two people who talk a lot in this committee. Let's break them up. Uh, I would say if you run a talk timer on this podcast, I probably talk more than you do, Brian. So maybe that's a resolution for me this year. Talk a little bit less, let you talk more.
Oh, I like it when you're fired up. It's kind of fun.
I am fired. I got opinions, Brian. And at this point, I'm not afraid to share them unless I think they will get me fired, in which case I don't share them.
Well, hopefully people listen to our show, Reagan, because we have opinions. Because you can't listen to shows where they don't really have opinions. They say the same stuff over and over again. It's kind of boring. So I like to have opinions and I like to make my voice heard. And I think it's really my opinions are shaped by people around me too. So you shape my opinion and stuff. I'm shaped by people in
True.
the building.
You're
How do you
shaped.
shape my
You shape
opinion on
mine.
bills, right? So I think it's I'm just a big blob waiting to be shaped.
My goal, and when I worked for Oregon Catalyst, the stories I would write, and with this podcast and with the podcast with Ben before, my goal has always been I think that there's a lot about the legislative process that isn't a secret, but that nobody knows about because you have to be there. And
Yeah.
so my goal is to, tear off the first page of the press release, tear off the first page of the talking points, and get to what's the actual debate. What's the real discussion? What are the lobbyists saying to staff and legislators in the hallways? That is the conversation that I think that's the goal of Crosstabs is that's the conversation we're going to bring to this podcast, not the talking points. There are shows for that. Every legislator has a podcast for talking points now, and not the press releases. I want to get beyond that stuff. We touch
Yes.
on them and we say this is why this is happening, and I think that's what makes our show valuable. We hope that it continues to be valuable. And if Brian and I both get fired from the legislature, then we will have to shut down the podcast because we'll be on the outside and we will not know anything, and then it will be useless.
Yeah. We'll be
But for
we'll be
now,
Lars. We'll be
we're
Lars
still.
Larson at that point.
His show does make it clear he has no idea what's going on at the
Yeah.
legislature.
He's the
He does
best.
his best, but he's got of listeners and a lot of subject areas, and he is a national show. He's too big now. So, but looking forward to continue to peel back the layers of the short session onion for people as we
Cool.
move forward.
Awesome. Talk to you next week.
See you, Bryan.